Hi, everybody. Nice to see you here. My name is Janine Forsyth Lefevre. I am the owner and founder of Wyoming Workplace Wellness. For the next 7 weeks here at LCCC, we're going to be practicing together, learning all about mindfulness, mindfulness-based stress reduction, time management, and basically how to take care of ourselves during what for most of us can be a really stressful time when there's not a pandemic happening. This time of year is often just really intense for a lot of us. So hopefully what we're going to do over the next 7 weeks is talk a little bit about really useful tools and practices that you can implement in your own life. I'll also be leading you through some relaxation practices, some meditation, some gentle yoga. Hopefully you're able to find some time to rest and recharge during our time together. So before I get into the nuts and bolts of what the next 7 weeks are going to look like, we will start every one of our meetings or recording videos by just taking a little 2-minute check-in with our breath. So I'll invite you to find a tall, comfortable seat. And that can be in a chair, it can be on a couch, it could be in bed. I am on the floor. I have a little cushion underneath my bum, which helps to just align my spine a little bit better. So really, any place you can find a tall, comfortable spine is going to be perfect. Once you're there, if you're comfortable, you can close down the eyes or maybe just soften the gaze. A couple of feet out in front of the body and let your eyes just kind of fall out of focus. So you're turning inward here as opposed to focusing on something external. Once you find your tall, comfortable seat, begin to become really aware of your breathing. Noticing inhale and exhale. Watching the rise and fall of the belly and the chest. Notice where you feel the breath most noticeably. Maybe it's the tip of the nose, back of the throat, feel the breath most in your belly. Without judgment, just notice. Three more breaths, just noticing our breath, being really present with it. With the third breath, softly flutter the eyes open if you like, or you're welcome to keep them closed as we move on today. Just did our first mindfulness breathing exercise. So in the next 7 weeks, we'll be exploring very simple techniques just like that one, as well as some others that are a little bit more advanced but have really wonderful benefits. The very first thing I wanted to talk about today is going to be what the format is going to look like over the next 7 weeks. And then we'll also get into a little bit about what mindfulness actually is today. So that we're all sort of on the same page as we start out talking about not only what mindfulness is, but how we can apply it in our everyday lives as busy students, parents, friends, employees, and all of the other roles that we take on in our lives. Jon Kabat-Zinn is a researcher. He is from the US. In the 70s, he began really looking into Buddhist techniques of mindfulness meditation and researching them from a lens of neuroscience. A lot of his research can be found out there today. If you were to Google Jon Kabat-Zinn, it's Jon. Kabat is Kabatzinn. This is one of my favorite books of his. We're going to be reading a lot of this over the next few weeks. Anyway, if you Google his name, you'll be able to find lots of peer-reviewed journal articles, tons and tons of information. Based on his research into Buddhist mindfulness, he came up with kind of a westernized application known as mindfulness-based stress reduction. And while I won't be following that curriculum letter by letter, I definitely borrow a lot from that, as well as from yoga tradition, Buddhist tradition, and other mindfulness-based practices. But my main source over the next 7 weeks is going to be Jon Kabat-Zinn's work. His definition of mindfulness, and I'll read it for you just so you can kind of get a feel for how he approaches this. We can all start on the same page. He says, mindfulness is awareness cultivated by paying attention non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. Mindfulness is awareness cultivated by paying attention in a sustained and particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. A nice way to summarize that is be here now. Right? Just be present in your life. Try not to judge. Try not to react with extreme aversion or extreme desire. Just being really present with yourself, noticing the world around you and noticing the world inside of you. So when you're mindful of this moment, you're present for your life and you experience it just as it is, not as you hoped it would be, not as you expected it to be, not seeing more or less than what is here, not with judgments that can lead you to a conditioned reaction. When you are mindful of this moment, you are present for exactly what is here as it unfolds, meeting each moment with equanimity, meaning balance, meaning each moment with a balanced outlook. When I think about the word equanimity, I think about somebody who is unflappable. We've all had that person in our lives. Maybe it was a boss or a teacher, maybe one of our parents if we were lucky, but someone who seems to greet every situation with a calmness and an ease, not overreacting or running away or getting overly excited, right? Equanimity, kind of maintaining that equilibrium even as the storm swirls around you. And that's really what a mindfulness practice can provide for us. And that's what we'll be talking and thinking about over the next 7 weeks. And we'll look at it in context of managing our stress, of managing our time, making sure that we have time not only to get everything done that we need to get done, but time to include caring for ourselves and lots of rest. We'll be looking at mindfulness and equanimity in terms of bettering our sleep. That is huge for a lot of us, especially this time of year. As I'm recording this, it's November 2nd. We just set the clocks back. We're going to have a US presidential election this week. One way or another, I bet a lot of us are going to have trouble sleeping just because there's so much going on. So we'll talk a little bit about sleep. And then we'll work on planning for the future, which maybe sounds contradictory to what I just said about mindfulness, like be here now. But having a plan in place, especially as we move into the holiday season and things get shaken up again for us in terms of our everyday routines and expectations that we put on ourselves and that others put on ourselves, mindfulness is going to give us tools to rock all of those situations really effectively. Mindfulness is an ancient idea with modern Western research backing. So just know that while I am, relying a lot on Jon Kabat-Zinn's work, that it does come from indigenous peoples of South Asia. Lots of traditions, including Buddhist, yoga, Hindu, and even some Celtic traditions incorporated mindfulness and meditation. So if you're interested in the roots of the practice, I can absolutely help you discover some of those. And it's really important that we honor those roots. So even though I'm referring to a Western researcher for our time together, just know that there's a lot of stuff that you can dig into that come up that he really drew on for his work. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to get the most out of this series over the next few weeks. On Mondays at noon, we're going to be meeting just like this. The live Zoom calls you're able to pop in on, ask questions, practice with me in real time. I'll be posting videos up on the YouTube channel that hopefully the link was shared with you. And you're welcome to bookmark that, and that way you'll know when new videos come up. For our time together on Mondays at noon, we're going to be going over some skill building, some information sharing, the nuts and bolts of the practice, the tools, the tips. Sometimes I might have a reading that I want to share with you. And we'll usually incorporate a little bit of meditation practice, but in shorter little bite-sized amounts so that we can have conversations. Then Wednesday evenings at 5 o'clock, if you join the live calls, we'll really be digging into the actual practices themselves. So doing some meditations, doing some mindful breathing exercises, even gentle yoga and movement we'll incorporate on some of our Wednesdays together. So just know that's kind of how the weeks are going to shake out. Mondays will be more about, the intellectual part of mindfulness and meditation and how to use those practices to our benefit. And then Wednesday, we'll really get into the actual practice of it. I really recommend that you attend as many classes as you can or watch as many of these videos as you can so you can get the full experience. When we're doing our meditation or yoga practices, see if you can really be present in there. It's so hard. It's hard to fight the urge to check our phone. We hear a notification. Who is it? What do they need? But anytime you can block out some moments for yourself in a place that you hopefully won't be interrupted, you'll get the most benefit out of some of these practices. Not some, all of these practices, you'll get the most benefit if you can block out time to really be present with them. Focus on doing just a little bit each day though. That's why we're only doing 2 30-minute videos a week. You'll have a lot of time to figure out where, when, how, if these practices fit into your own daily life. And the key is really to start small. In future classes, we're going to explore ways to incorporate mindfulness practices into a busy day. We'll talk about, stress management and time management and self-care. As I mentioned, we'll also explore some basic yoga sequences, specifically meant to turn on your body's parasympathetic nervous system, which is a fancy way of saying your body's rest and digest mode. A lot of us spend good chunks of our day in the fight or flight mode, just out of survival, right? But turning on that rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system, is really important for our overall well-being and health. So a lot of what we do will focus on that, especially on our Wednesday practices. And while consistency is really good, just know that this is a practice, not a perfect. Give yourself some grace, practice self-compassion. You might miss a week. You can always go back and catch up. There's no one right way, ever. And don't let anyone tell you that there's only one right way to meditate. There's one right way to practice mindfulness. That is simply not the case. Take what works for you, leave the rest, make it your own. Just because I'm sitting on the floor on a meditation cushion doesn't mean you can't be going for a walk, sitting in bed, laying on the couch. There's lots of different ways that this can look for you. And for our time together, it's a great idea to have a pen and paper or a journal. I really recommend it. I think just jotting down your thoughts after meditation or yoga practice is really beneficial for your brain, for your body, for you to just begin to absorb the effects of the practice and start to notice the things that you have great reactions to, the things that you didn't really like. So I recommend when you sit down to watch these videos, having a journal with you. So what I'd like you to do now is think a little bit about what your goals for the next few weeks might look like, specifically in terms of caring for yourself, maybe learning a mindfulness practice. Maybe the goal is to watch these 2 videos every week. Maybe the goal is to attend live, watch the recordings at a certain day or time. And if you're intrigued and you want to join us, what do you think is behind that? What are you hoping to gain? A lot of the things I've talked about today have included less stress, right? Better able to manage time, better sleep, self-care. There's lots of different reasons or motivations folks might have from seeking out a mindfulness practice. So just notice if one of those is rising to the surface for you. And if you already have a pen and paper, go ahead and write that down. Before we leave each other today, I'd like to do a little bit of what in a lot of meditation circles might be called a Dharma talk. Really, it's usually just a sharing of wisdom, right? And I'll read from Jon Kabat-Zinn's book that I've been waving around at you. It's Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness Meditation in Everyday Life. And what I'd like to do is read his it's very short chapter on what is mindfulness. So to really make the most out of this, I recommend going back to your tall, comfortable seat or whatever position you find most conducive to being truly present. Seeing if you can find a shape that has a tall, comfortable spine. Maybe closing down the eyes or softening the gaze. And just letting my words go in one ear and out the other, knowing that whatever's supposed to stick will stick. Anything that doesn't need to will just move on by and wash over you. Mindfulness is an ancient Buddhist practice, which has profound relevance for our present-day lives. This relevance has nothing to do with Buddhism per se, or with becoming a Buddhist, but it has everything to do with waking up and living in harmony with oneself and with the world. It has to do with examining who we are, with questioning our view of the world and our place in it, and with cultivating some appreciation for the fullness of each moment we are alive. Most of all, it has to do with being in touch. From the Buddhist perspective, our ordinary waking state of consciousness is seen as being severely limited and limiting, resembling in many respects an extended dream rather than wakefulness. Meditation helps us wake up from the sleep of autonomicity and unconsciousness, thereby making it possible for us to live our lives with access to the full spectrum of our conscious and unconscious possibilities. Sages, yogis, and Zen masters have been exploring this territory systematically for thousands of years. In the process, they have learned something which may now be profoundly beneficial in the West to counterbalance our cultural orientation toward controlling and subduing nature, rather than honoring that we are an intimate part of it. Their collective experience suggests that by investigating inwardly our own nature as beings, and particularly the nature of our own minds, through careful and systematic self-observation, we may be able to live lives of greater satisfaction, harmony, and wisdom. It also offers a view of the world which is complementary to the predominantly reductionist and materialistic one currently dominating Western thought and institutions. But this view is neither particularly Eastern nor mystical. Thoreau saw the same problem with our ordinary mind state in New England in 1846 and wrote with great passion about its unfortunate consequences. Mindfulness provides a simple but powerful route for getting ourselves unstuck, back in touch with our own wisdom and vitality. It is a way to take charge of the direction and quality of our own lives including our relationships with family, our relationship to work, and to the larger world and planet, and most fundamentally, our relationship with ourselves as a person. The habit of ignoring our present moments in favor of others yet to come leads directly to a pervasive lack of awareness of the web of life in which we are embedded. This includes a lack of awareness and understanding of our own mind and how it influences our perceptions and our actions. It severely limits our perspective on what it means to be a person and how we are connected to each other. Religion has traditionally been the domain of such fundamental inquiries within the spiritual framework, but mindfulness has little to do with religion, except in the most fundamental meaning of the word, as an attempt to appreciate the deep mystery of being alive and to acknowledge being vitally connected to all that exists. When we commit to ourselves, to pay attention in an open way, without falling prey to our own likes and dislikes, opinions and prejudices, projections and expectations, new possibilities open up, and we have a chance to free ourselves from the straitjacket of unconsciousness. I like to think of mindfulness simply as the art of conscious living. You don't have to be a Buddhist or a yogi to practice it. In fact, if you know anything about Buddhism, you will know that the most important point is to be yourself and not try to become anything that you are not already. Buddhism is fundamentally about being in touch with your own deepest nature and letting it flow out of you unimpeded. It has to do with waking up and seeing things as they are. In fact, the word Buddha simply means one who has awakened to his or her own true nature. So mindfulness will not conflict with any beliefs or traditions, religious or for that matter, scientific, nor is it trying to sell you anything, especially not a new belief system or ideology. It is simply a practical way to be more in touch with the fullness of your being through a systematic process of self-observation, self-inquiry, and mindful action. There is nothing cold, analytical, or unfeeling about it. The overall tenor of mindfulness practice is gentle, appreciative, and nurturing. Another way to think of it would be heartfulness. End our time together today. If you need to adjust after sitting still to listen to the reading, go ahead and do that. And then find your tall spine once more. And close down or soften the eyes. Tune back into your breath. Maybe some of those words are still swirling around your mind. See if they can settle. Notice if your brain wants to focus on something from the past, maybe a plan for the future, a to-do list, a regret. See if you can gently let those things go just for a minute, knowing that they'll be there when you're ready to pick them back up. But allow them to fall away and keep 100% of your mind on your breathing. Again, just noticing the inhales. Watching the exhales. Maybe you begin to deepen the breath. Inhale to a count of 3 or 4. Hold it full. Exhale to a count of 4 or 5. Pouring the air out with water from the pitcher. 3 more breaths, just like that. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Allow your breath to find its natural rhythm. Know that you can stay here as long as you like. When you're ready to come out of meditation, either with me or if you're doing it on your own, be really gentle with yourself. Maybe breathing some life into your fingers and toes. Rolling out wrists is always nice. Maybe some shoulder rolls. Maybe some neck stretches, dropping one ear to one shoulder. Moving to the other side. Neck rolls, rolling to one side and the other. When you're ready, fluttering the eyes open. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to have a really great time over the next few weeks. Sometimes I'll have slides, maybe a couple of videos. We'll always do some practice. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.